Hello everyone, I'm Twotris Humble, and today I just kind of wanted to talk about failing. So as an artist, we all want to express ourselves to everybody as much as possible because we have like this inner yearn to be authentic. But then there's also this failure fear that we all sort of share, where you want to do something really good, but then you feel paralysis because the thing that you could potentially make isn't as good as you know it could be. And I see so many artists. I used to have this friend back in Milwaukee who was a director. He really liked Quentin Tarantino and Stanley Kubrick, and he wanted to emulate that. And he was an incredibly smart dude, but a lot of the times when we wanted to do projects together, we would never get anything done because he wanted everything to be exactly perfect as he saw it in his mind. And I don't really think that he understood the importance of just doing it and learning by doing. This is another thing that Johnny Mazza says in one of his videos, where instead of being so obsessed with perfection, just let the experience take control of you, and you will find something in it that takes you on your artistic journey. It's interesting because I found myself in getting lost. And as a musician myself, a lot of my original music that I made, like especially 6 years ago, I wouldn't even want to listen to that stuff anymore. I wouldn't recommend it to anybody. But in the last year, I feel like I've made a breakthrough in connecting with my true self. But I imagine maybe even 3 or 4 years from now, I'll look back at the music I'm making today and feel like that was crap. But the real thing is, I actually tried. You know, the classic saying is that you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. And I wouldn't call myself an opportunist by anything. I know that opportunists are people who try to get in an advantageous position in any situation that they have. But whenever an opportunity presents itself in front of me, whether I'm the one who has the opportunity, whether somebody else gives me the opportunity, I'm going to take that because you don't know where it will lead you. That's the beauty of life, you see. And my friend, who's this director back in Wisconsin, very talented guy, but ultimately his portfolio is very small because he never tried. He let the idea, the paralysis of never achieving the idea, get to him. And now he has all of this potential that I personally feel like he's wasted. And that's another reason that I decided to come out here into this park and make the video today, because I actually have a fear of speaking in public. And I'm in Japan, by the way. A lot of you guys, you over in the United States and the UK or whatever country you live, you can go out in public and speak into a camera and no one's going to give a crap. You know, because it's an individualistic, well, there are more individualistic countries in the West, and you don't have the pressure of people looking at you. Japan is the country where the nail that sticks out gets hammered down. And I'm here filming myself knowing that Japanese people who have no idea what I'm saying think that I'm a crazy person. But I think that there's a freedom in no longer being afraid of that, especially because the beauty of connecting with people is only found when you put yourself out there. And I think there's a really powerful idea that I heard recently where you should use how nobody knows who you are to your advantage. Nobody cares. That's the other thing is, when you're younger, you care about what other people think. In middle age, you don't care about what other people think. And then when you get older, you realize that nobody was thinking about you at all. And since nobody is thinking about you in the first place, what do you really have to be afraid of? There's this paralysis with the artist where you want things to be perfect, but then it's not perfect, and then somebody shits on it. But who cares, man? You know, they'll watch it, then eventually go off about their day, and will probably forget that crappy thing that you made exists at all, and then you'll continue on getting better at what you do as an artist. And that's kind of how I felt on YouTube. If you look at some of the old videos that I posted on the channel back in 2020 or 2021, I was a nervous wreck. I was always anxious. And now looking at myself now, I mean, I'm still pretty anxious when I put on the camera, but the difference is I am not afraid of the consequences. It's just kind of, a little awkward being on the bench like this, speaking to you guys, but there's a self-transformation that happens in the act of itself. You learn more when you're doing things than when you're sitting in front of your computer reading a book via some proper education. Now, there's obviously something to be said about traditional education, but I'm kind of a believer that, you read a little bit of something for a moment, you intake it for maybe a week, a month, but a brief amount of time, and then you take that minimal amount of knowledge, go out into your field, and then use your inner creativity to propel yourself into a domain or a period of consciousness and a type of consciousness that you otherwise wouldn't have experienced if you let the teacher, the textbook, dictate everything that you do, everything that you learn. That's another thing a problem I have with the education system itself is like creativity and putting yourself out there are very valuable. And we have all of these people online now talking about how creativity is either dead or that the education system isn't really serving the artistic mind or the creative people who want to go out into the world. And I mean, I really couldn't agree more with that. I think that, we need to not only celebrate geniuses, but people who just have ideas in general, who want to go out and take this world and make it a little bit better than what it already is. It'll never be perfect, but I think that it could be appropriately perfect for its time. And that's the job of the creative. If the creative isn't doing something to express himself so that he's inspiring another creative or even a non-creative who looks at him, then there's really no purpose in expressing yourself at all. The human connection is ultimately what I want to emphasize here. And I found so much power in going out into the world, just letting myself experience new things and then letting the experience teach me. And if I hadn't gone onto YouTube, if I hadn't made music as much as I have, I'd probably still be thinking about it and then regretting that I'd never done these things. And nobody wants to be on their deathbed worried or regretting that their life didn't go exactly as it did. And one of the things I actually can honestly say is if I were going, I don't know when I'm going to die, but if I were to die tomorrow, the feeling I have right now is in my life, I've always tried to live my life exactly as I want to, express myself in the way that I want to, and learn as much as I can with every opportunity given to me. And I wouldn't be upset about dying. There are a lot of people who say like they don't want to die, but it's not necessarily that I want to die, but the thought of dying tomorrow doesn't scare me that much because I've never been afraid of following my heart and actualizing my inner artistry. And I think that we can all be doing this. It's just we have like a fear of the keyboard warriors coming after us, telling us to go kill ourselves or that we're stupid or something's wrong with our face. And this is like another thing I don't like about the internet is this, it's such a negative place where you have all of these influencers and streamers taking videos of people and then making fun of them to basically make money and get views. And you realize like these people who are basically bullies online don't even know the people that they're talking about. And there's just like a malice in it that I don't really understand. And I never will understand it because I think that every person has the potential to find their own inner beauty, their inner, artistic, like je ne sais quoi. But when we have this culture of like bullying people who put themselves out there, it kind of gives this anxiety where even if people don't necessarily care, like there's this enjoyment that I see people have when they, tell somebody that they're worth nothing or that their art isn't worth watching or that they're essentially never going to amount to anything. Like, yes, a lot of people end up amounting to things. Like, I think it was Bob Dylan or Steve Jobs who said that don't write off the crazies too quickly because it's usually the people who think that they're going to change the world who actually do. And I really, really believe that because if you never stop, if you focus on like one thing, then that thing might actually write or create the journey for you. A lot of people, like, they don't know what to do with themselves in life. They don't know where to go. I had this art professor back then who I emailed when I was feeling artistically lost. I think this was back in like 2020 or 2019. And I sent her an email and I said, I don't really know when I should be drawing. I don't really know when I should be creating. And she sent me an email back within like a couple of hours. And her advice was just do it. Just do it. Get out the paper, get out the pencil, and draw whatever comes to mind. Because once you get lost in a drawing or a creative project, then you're so into it that you don't want to stop. I also noticed this too. It's like I always think of drawing and music and how I don't want to do it because it takes so much time. But then I get out the sketchbook and I start drawing something that I really enjoy. And then before I know it, 2 or 3 hours have passed and I'm like, oh my God, why don't I do this every single day? The tragedy of it is like we all forget the feeling. We always forget that creating and being in the flow of things is like this ecstatic state that we could be achieving, but is sadly like separated by how when we're on our normal consciousness, when we're not creating, like we don't we just kind of look at that as a chore, and how like, oh, you know, I'll never be good, I'll never make anything like of value. It's like, no, man, fuck that. Just create, just do it, and you never know where you're going to end up. I mean, I decided to go to school, and now I'm here in the middle of Japan, and I love it, man. I don't want to go back to the States at all because I followed my heart, and I had some intentions to be a creative, and ultimately it wasn't about getting a job that I really worried about. I mean, I obviously have a job, but it's the internal experience of being a creative. And you are denying that internal experience. You are denying the ecstasy that you could have in that internal experience every time you let your creative paralysis get in the way. So if you're feeling lost, let the feeling of being lost define your journey. And then all of a sudden, you'll find that you have something to live for. And that's what happened to me. So I wanted to thank everybody for sticking around today, because this has just been a very powerful moment in the last like 2 weeks of my life, where I'm not too afraid of moving forward in this 2025, where I'm going to take the camera out like this and just discuss random topics, is something that I've always wanted to do. So thank you.